Hello, Internet. I'm talking DC this time, and so this should be quick. Hawkgirl 2 out of 6. This hasn't really grabbed me. This is very clearly for a different group of people. I don't mean that in a bad way, and I know there's a lot of Hawk fans out there that have been eagerly awaiting this book, especially after the unceremonious ending of Hawkman, which was considered so great. It just kind of never quite caught on, probably because Batman wasn't in it or whatever. And there's been a growing hunger and a push at DC to kind of give other characters new books and to differentiate and seemingly shake up their line and come into it this time a bit more. Although it seemed like they were doing that. Then they did the whole Night Terrors thing at a weird time, so I don't know. Um, but here, as you see on the cover, it's Hot Girl versus this purple lady. Sorry, I tried skimming it before talking and I just couldn't find her name and I do not remember. She's very bubbly and annoying, and Hot Girl's kind of dour and tortured. And so it's this very interesting dichotomy thing. But what's funny to me is it was very reminiscent in that way of Pink Lemonade that I just read. And the whole time I was reading this versus that, and I was just kind of, I don't know, this book just has not been grabbing me. I think they're onto an idea, but it just isn't done in a way that captured me. Whereas the Superman annual to me was incredible. You just have an incredible amount of talent on there. Williamson and this whole art crew, and you can kind of see the art change from point to point. But it hit me that this is kind of comics done well. And there's this one page in particular where they're talking about what this LexCorp Supercore thing can do, and you get the building layout and do all this, but you also go later and you can see some stuff, and it just hit me that this is comics in a way that it has the full support of DC. This is after, half dozen issues of Superman of this run coming, and this is kind of a mission statement of saying, now that some base parts are here, this is where we're going. This is some of what's coming up, because there's a lot of dropping of something with Brainiac. They kind of have this new status quo with Parasite. They have the Livewire Jimmy Olsen thing, which I love. Livewire has become my favorite Superman villain now, and that she's not entirely a villain. And it's just a lot of winding. And most of this book, actually, it's actually kind of funny. I kind of wonder about it. Basically, this book does not have Superman in it. There are a couple pages that has him in it, though, very notably where he's thinking he's dealing with Toyman and then he doesn't. Someone was setting it up and it like it looked like Toyman, but it was really a proxy for some kids thinking they were playing a video game, but they were terrorizing a city. Good setup, good interesting idea, but it was this whole idea of the Daily Bugle staff going and trying to put things together, and then they have a secret with Perry White, and this idea of Metropolis being the city of secrets, and they're going to try to uncover the secrets, and it's not, this comic in and of itself for the most part was great, though it is an annual, and it was kind of a promise of what's to come, which is also selling you on to continue buying Superman, right? So there's a that component of it, but it did it in the best way possible. Here's some seeds, here's some ideas that we want to get to, and this is all building, and Superman's basically in the background, and we're going to get there. And I just thought it was so incredibly compelling and great. And yeah, there was a bit of that commercialism in there, but in a way that really didn't bother me and didn't hit as tacky as it was necessarily in like that Spider-Man annual I talked about recently, where it was literally just like 2 pages of what's going to be a different story. This is selling you on stuff coming up in the Superman book, and I believe just the Superman book. Maybe I'm wrong there. We'll see. But I am hook, line, and sinker on the Superman run. I've never really collected a Superman run before. I know I said that when I was starting down this run, and I'm pretty well on it. Really well enjoying it. I am remiss to say I was happy to hear months ago now that a new Birds of Prey was coming. And since it came out this last week, I've heard nothing but incredible praise, though it is that first issue glimmer that a lot of people are locking onto. So we'll see how it fares, a few months down the road. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Birds of Prey is the book that got me to DC and kind of has always held a special place for me, and some particular direct connections to family with that. But very excited to read that. Was very bummed when I saw my shipment that didn't come until much later, because this my shipment was shipped 2 weeks ago from the place, and then FedEx just like held on to it. Um, kind of a bummer, kind of the hazard of what I get for trying to go cheaper, I guess, too. And I got them, and I'll get them all, so I can't complain per se. But every now and again, there's something like that Birds of Prey issue where I'm like, I want it now, but I'll be patient. And then last, I don't know how much I have to say about this. Wildcats continues this setting Wildcats against the Bat family has been interesting, but also the fact that it's all these Wildstorm characters and some of them are fighting against each other and who they are. I'm honestly really lost at kind of where we were because there's been alternate realities, different takes on characters and all that, and it's 10 issues in and they had to reestablish anything because it's not taking any of the status quo from a prior Wildcats run. So I don't know. I just thinking that might have put the nail in the coffin for me for that run, and that's fine because not only is Birds of Prey coming, there's a new Green Lantern book that I'm curious to see how that's going to go atop the Green Lantern book that was already running. Um, and then I'm gonna close out Green Arrow, and like I said, Superman's going, and I think there might be a couple DC books coming down the pipe that are going to catch my attention at this point because it seems like DC's making an honest effort to really have some different characters, have some different books, and have stuff that will appeal to different people. And I think that's great. Now, it's still kind of within a relatively narrow band of superhero stuff, right? Which feels a lot more narrow than it did a while ago when the start of the Image revolution was happening. Because you had Marvel and DC, and then Image was like doing other stuff. But now we have other stuff from Image regularly, and then we have stuff from like IDW and Dynamite and then a handful of other companies with a few breakout hits here and there. And I don't know, it does feel a little more like sticking just to superheroes now is just a lot more narrow than it used to be. And I'm kind of wondering if that will start to break, even if it's characters within the DC universe, if they could have maybe one humor comic per, big two team, or maybe an honest to God, like it would be harder to do like a detective, I guess, especially in DC because you have Batman. But I mean, if you did the question and played it pretty straight. So like he has that superhero veneer of like the mask for his identity and whatnot. But if you did a new question, new character being the question, part of the question is who is he and why should you care about who is he? But it's not Vic Savage, it's not Renee, and then you have just a guy doing it and not playing into all the superhero stuff, but going through maybe occasionally interacting with them though. Maybe that's a way that they could get somewhere and do something different. I don't know. I feel like we might see some new things because they need new angles, and now that they're not just comics but content mills for TV and movies and games and whatnot, I think we might start seeing some more wild takes and some more spins on old designs that we got more before, because especially because I'm looking at this Blue Beetle ad. I mean, that's not Ted Cord, right? Like that was a different thing, and it was a hubbubaloo decade ago when I was reading comics. Like, is well, what are they doing with the classic characters? Blah blah blah. But no one cared that much. It was the Blue Beetle, and so now that is the Blue Beetle to most people. Because I mean, how many people outside of old school comic nerds would even know who Ted Cord is? I don't know. So I don't know. I mean, it's funny because two out of the three comics didn't do a ton for me. But knowing some of what's coming down the pipe and seeing the honest vision of what so many people have been asking for DC for years coming out really does make me excited to see, what books kind of shuffle out and are actually totally worth it and totally great, because it's been good to see that. And on the other end, I've never been happier to not be a Batman fan and not be touching any of that, because everything I'm hearing about all that right now, um, yeah, made me happy I wasn't paying to read it. So, anyways, cheers. Keep reading, and I'll hit up soon with another video.